Usually, discussions of the first Europeans to explore the American Southwest are general in nature. One reason for this is that there have been few, if any, details as to the routes they took and where they stopped along the way. There is also a lack of understanding of what the specific items and attributes of the material culture are that characterize these expeditions. Other than a few experts, people have not understood what the artifacts look like that characterize these earliest expeditions. There is a long period of Spanish presence in the area during the colonial period. It's critical to distinguish this later Spanish colonial material from that associated with the earliest expeditions. There are a few items that are so diagnostic, so characteristic of the Coronado expedition, that when found, it's possible to confirm the presence of this 1540 expedition. Others are indicative of the Spanish period in general. Because the Spanish period covers such a long period of time, they are not especially informative. That is, these types of artifacts are not of value for pinpointing Coronado because they were used for an excessively long period of time, and therefore could indicate that a place was used or visited by Spaniards at any time between 1539 and the 1800s. The need to distinguish Coronado-specific artifacts from those of the later Spanish period is exemplified by a previous claim to discovery of a key Coronado site in southern Arizona. Artifacts relating to the general Spanish period are those artifacts that Nugent Brasher uncovered at the Kaikan Doll site in the early 2000s. While Brasher claimed their Coronado association, they are Spanish period, but not Coronado. This is why not a single archaeologist familiar with the site, the artifacts, and Coronado has confirmed that the Kaikan Doll site is Chichilticalli, as Brasher claims. The Spanish period artifacts likely relate to the 1795 José de Zúñiga expedition, where Zúñiga blazed a new Spanish trail between Tucson and Santa Fe. Records indicate that Zúñiga was not following a known Spanish trail, but instead found a new Spanish route through the mountains. A handful of artifacts that indicate Coronado are widely recognized by archaeologists familiar with Coronado sites. Among these are the bolt or arrowhead for a crossbow. All of those recognized as crossbow arrowheads are made of copper, some of which have been traced to West Mexican sources. Both copper and unequivocal iron bolt heads have now been identified in Arizona. Several styles are present, indicating different makers and different sources, and also probably different uses. Also considered diagnostic is a specific nail. It's called a carrot head, or bifaceted nail, facet-headed nails, or clavos con dos golpes, or nails with two blows. These are very distinctive, but keep in mind that it's not the shank of the nail, but rather the head of the nail that is diagnostic. The shank is not sufficiently distinctive by itself to indicate that Coronado was present, but in contrast, the head by itself is in fact distinctive of the Coronado expedition. And it's more durable, and so would survive. Brasher had only shanks and had no definitive Coronado artifacts. Other items considered diagnostic include the Clarksdale bell, Venetian beads, green obsidian blades from native swords, chainmail, plate and scale armor, various helmets, breastplates, and the like, copper lace aglets, even portions of the scabbards for daggers or swords are seemingly diagnostic. There are also some artifacts to add to the list for southern Arizona, given the limited early Spanish activity in this area. Because known Spanish activity did not occur again until the fourth quarter of the 1600s, we can include a number of artifacts that did not go out of use immediately after the expedition, but that were no longer manufactured or in use after the turn of the 17th century, that is, AD 1600 or so. We can be relatively certain that they represent Coronado. If nothing else, they summons the need for more intensive investigation of an area. As it turns out, one of these is the late medieval and post-medieval horseshoe. This style of early Spanish horseshoe was no longer made after about 1600. This horseshoe style has not been seen as diagnostic of the Coronado expedition because scholars have assumed its continued use into the Presidio period. Yet this style only continued in use until about 1600, and here in Arizona that continued use is not a relevant issue because there was no official presence after Coronado until the late 1600s. Simmons and Turley suggest that perhaps metal horseshoes and nails were too expensive to use in everyday life, but would have been needed for expeditions. The kind of horse introduced into the colonial period Spanish Southwest, the Spanish barb, had tough hooves that it is said did not require expensive metal horseshoes. Horseshoe styles had changed when horseshoes were in vogue again, as metal decreased in price and therefore became more widely available. Of course, there are other items as well, but this should give a sense of how archaeologists identify Coronado period sites with certainty.